What's up, y'all? This is Joey from Joey Talks Live, and this is the Dominate the Day podcast. Welcome. This is episode 2, and I'm entitling it Don't Stop, Get It, Get It. This is a shout out to the old heads. Y'all will get it. The young cats, you'll get it later. But yes, welcome to episode 2, entitled Don't Stop, Get It, Get It. I have some points I want to hit, and the alternate title will be Dream, Suffer, Endure, Overcome. As you know, viewership, this podcast is dedicated to the younger version of myself, the version of myself that was leaving high school and the one that matriculated through college and entered the workforce as a firefighter and was just figuring out life. So that avatar, that subset of males that are just getting out to start life, figuring it out from college age up to about 30, 35, this is for you. This is what this podcast is for. Feel called and compelled to impart my knowledge and my experience and what I've encountered while working all over the world and encountering all kinds of different things. My take on success, or let me rephrase that, the tools you'll need to overcome life's challenges. You know what I mean? And the stuff I wish I knew, decisions I made that I'm glad I did, some not so glad. But so you can learn and you'll be able to succeed, you know what I mean? And not on a materialistic aspect per se, but on a spiritual aspect, on a positive aspect. But stay tuned, here we are. So episode 2, yeah, I mean, here we go. So dream, suffer, endure, overcome. A lot of times when life start hitting, it hits you in the face, right? Everybody talks about that Mike Tyson quote. Everybody got a plan till you get punched in the face, or punched in the mouth, rather. And this is something that a lot of people give up on. You'll have a lot of adults or adult males, when life starts happening, when you're a child, it comes almost instinctive to dream and have an imagination and to live in a land of make believe and be able to visualize and see things that are not there and hope and dream and desire for them to come. And then when life starts life and the bills start mounting up and sickness and death and all of that starts happening, and people say, you got to grow up, you got to man up. You say, all right, to man up, that means I need to give up on my dreams and be realistic and then get a job and pay these bills and take care of my family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But here's what I have to say. Not so fast. Have a little bit of Peter Pan in you. And that's another old head reference. And Peter Pan was this character, fictional character, that was a little bit suspect, but basically he will come and take you from your bedroom to the land, to Never Land. And you'll never have to grow up and you'll be able to be a kid and be fun and carefree. So what I'm saying is we're creating a hybrid version of that. You need to be responsible. Yeah, you need to have a good work ethic. You need to be able to step up to the challenges that life will impart to you as an adult, but you have to be able to maintain that dream as well, because that dream is what's going to be able to carry you through when life becomes mundane and it's drudging and it's difficult and everything seems to be going wrong. And you're like, man, I didn't sign up for this. And then you might, being realistic, you might want to check out, or you might want to run away, or you might want to get away from all your problems because the finances ain't right, the grades ain't right, the relationships ain't right. Everything is going wrong. And you're like, yo, I didn't sign up to this. The Hallmark movie, the Disney movie said that once I did this and I did that, it was going to be happily ever after. Well, I'm here to tell you they lied. That's fictional. In reality, you're going to dream, then you're going to suffer. And if you endure, you will overcome to get to that next level. And guess what? A little more dreaming, a little more suffering, a little more endurance, then you'll overcome again. And you could, what you call, set your watch to it. It's going to happen. You make sure I make sure we're not interrupted. But I know where we at. All right, back to it. I have some definitions for y'all before I get ahead of myself. So to dream, according to Merriam-Webster, a series of thoughts, images, emotions occurring during sleep. Right? And it's bigger than that, right? We're not just talking about the dreaming aspect. I might highlight ChatGPT to give me the longer definition of that. But to suffer, to feel or endure pain. Endure, to remain firm under suffering or misfortune without yielding, right? And yielding is giving up. To overcome, to get the better of Sherman. And I told ChatGPT when I was planning for this podcast, let me get a little bit more. So here's a little bit more. To get the better of, surmount, overcome difficulties. Example, they overcame the enemy. And I said, let's look up surmount. To prevail, to overcome, to get to the top of, to climb, right? And that's important to what I'm trying to get at. And this, I'm not gonna be long at all. You have to have a dream, right? Because the dream gives you purpose. And I already told y'all what the purpose is. Your purpose, if you didn't know, write this down. Get your pens out. You know what I mean? Your paper. I got my pen and paper. Your purpose is to make the world better, right? And if you've been following me for a while on IG and other platforms where Joey Talks Live, where I put out motivational, inspirational words, short form words, or phrases, or what you want to call it, spoken word, right? You'll know that. But with that being said, I have a Christian worldview. And so to model Christ, the Messiah, he saved the world, right, with his sacrifice. And in turn, he imparts or encourages us to share his word, share the gospel, right? And help others, man, to love our Lord our God with all our heart, love our neighbor as ourselves. So that's what we're called to do. With that being said, what am I getting at? That's your purpose. Make the world a better place. And what did I want to highlight? Your purpose is not always tied up to your employment. So some people feel like, yo, if I gotta make the world a better place, I need to necessarily pick a profession that does that. I'm gonna say not necessarily. Your skill set might be you're really handy and you're good with your hands and you like auto mechanic and you're good at fixing cars. So it only makes sense if you're passionate about that to go make your bread in that industry. Also, your skill set may be someone that's good with woodworking, carpentry, or whatever. Or it might be barbering, right? If that's your skill set and that's your gift, you can do that, right? And you can pay your bills and you can make your money. You can start your empire and get your finances up while doing that. That could be the way you earn your keep, right? You keep the lights on. But I'm saying sometimes people's purpose could align with what they're doing for work, and that's a blessing. But more often than not, that's not always the case. So to dream, back to dream. It's important to have that dream. And as I shared in the first episode, on my wall, I have my dream house, dream second house, how I want to live, my vehicles and all of that. And if you know me, that's all good and well, but my purpose is so tied up into my living and my desire. I want all of that. And I'm going to push to attain all of that. But even more than that, what I have to do for the community is greater than that. So I have a lot of work to do. I have a lot of comments to get to be able to afford that. But I know if I keep doing it, if I follow the plan, it's just a matter of time till all of that is accomplished and then more, right? But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, then all these things will be added onto you. So kingdom building. With that being said, the dream is there. The purpose is there. So while pursuing that purpose, there will be suffering. So I was getting at that a little bit earlier, but just so you know, there will be suffering. Some people say life is suffering. You talk about different religious beliefs. I'm not going to quote them, but you guys know, you can look it up. Life is, people say, oh, life is suffering. Certain important religious figureheads in other religions will say that. And I understand. I would say there's a large aspect of suffering. And I would say also that God utilizes suffering to help shape our characters. So I'll repeat that because it's important. God utilizes suffering to shape our characters. Meaning, I'll give you an example of my own life. Remember, I was in Huntsville, Alabama, and I'll share story time. I left Huntsville because I was blackballed and lied on by a former employer. So the guy basically told me that I will not be, as long as he's alive, I would not be able to work in Northeast Alabama. And I was like, man, that's a bold statement. Um, and I realized it was God's hand anyway. And, unfortunately for him, he met his demise a few years later, but I ended up leaving. So, thankful that that did happen, even though at that moment I felt like my world was rocked upside down. But I will go deeper in that later. Just remind me, y'all. Viewership, remind me to tell the story about what happened with me and fire department in Northeast Alabama. I won't be messy and say the name of it. Maybe I'm right. We'll see how I feel. But either way, I left. I went to Montgomery. And when I was in academy, and I believe our academy was 19 or 20 weeks. Something like that. Something silly. And it was intense. This wasn't no cupcake academy, I had a rude awakening. People, I think it's an overused term, but I had a rude awakening academy. I thought I was going to go there and learn, and it was just going to be this great experience of learning these rescue techniques and going through. But what a rude awakening. What they did to us was criminal, right? And we suffered. What am I going to share? Just our bodies broke down. We lost so much weight. We went, and if you went and there with any kind of baby fat, some of them boys, everybody lost weight. Everybody lost weight, and it was just crazy. I had the ability to run like a deer, though. My distance running went up. I never ran distance. I played soccer. I played basketball. So I had decent cardio. But I'm telling you, after what they did to us in the academy, man, what story am I going to share? I'll share this story about the extra burger. So this is suffering, y'all. So bear with me. Suffering. We had an event where we went downtown to help out. I believe they had the combat challenge. Scott's combat challenge came down to Huntsville, Alabama at the time, and we hosted, I believe. Or they just had a regional event. And we helped out. We were out there all day, and let's say we were about 25 recruits, maybe about 27 at that time. And we started with like maybe 30 something, maybe 40, but people were dropping like flies, just quitting and quitting. And I had left everything behind. I had left for my job. I was a house manager with people with development who were developmentally disabled. And it paid, I say okay, it wasn't great. But my whole plan was to get into the fire service anyway. That was just holding me over. But it was good people for the most part, great clients, and I had great staff for the most part too. So I left that behind, but I had to leave that job right before I was leaving. Of course, you put in your you'll notice they know you're leaving, and next thing you know, they try to find a reason to run you off. Either way, but I resigned before I saw the writing on the wall, and I resigned. And I got out of there. So I'm sharing that with you to say I left everything behind, literally, and I moved into an extended stay kind of motel that you'll basically pay weekly to stay, and it was ghetto. So that's where I initially moved into before I moved in with one of my classmates, Chris Phelps. Shout out to Chris Phelps. He took me in, paid rent, but the way that the Lord opened those doors for me was nothing but divine. Shout out to Chris. I haven't spoken to him in a minute. I guess I'm about to hit him up. Him and his mom and his family just took me in like another child, and it really helped me. But there was suffering. So back to the story. Sorry, ADHD. Bear with me. This is a good story. So we're helping out, and we all had different missions, and the recruits didn't necessarily have food, but I think somebody in our leadership paid for us to eat, and they bought us a bunch of Whoppers. But some of them, our classmates, ate too because they were hungry. So when we came back, like I think it was me and a couple other cats came back, we didn't have a Whopper to eat because some of the other cats ate too. They thought it was extra, but they didn't even bother to check to see if everybody ate. I don't think they really cared. You know, everybody has a little bit of selfishness in us we got to resist. But with that being said, it could have been an honest mistake. Like I said, this is over 13 years ago. So I remember, I won't say any names of the recruits, but I'll say some of my training officers. And I think he's retired now. So it was Lieutenant Jordan, and he's an assistant chief now. He made district chief and assistant chief since then. And I remember him saying, "Why'd you eat the Whopper? Because you're a big fella," to one of the guys. This is Montgomery, Alabama, and everything is comedy. We laughed or whatever, but little did we know the next day they made us pay for it, and it was like a death march. I want to paint the scene. We had a drill tower. I think it's 4 or 5 levels up, 4 flights. At best, it's 6. Either way, it's either 5 or 6 flights to the top. And they lined us up, and what they would normally do is they'll exercise us at the beginning of every academy day. We doing push-ups, squat thrusts. We doing everything. We doing burpees, anything. We were almost unbreakable, I would say, because what they would do, I don't know, it's criminal. I really wish they had a recording of what they did to us. But they did it to them too. It's not like they just chose us. This is what they did. They're very proud of the way they fight fire and the way they train. And I'm thankful that I was able to get that opportunity to work there for the time that I did. And the fact that I got blocked. So that block was a blessing that came from on high. Anyway, long-winded joke. So we line up, it's a day after, and all of us are lined up, and we could tell something is up. It's a gray day, a little bit of overcast, but it's still warm and humid. Let's say it's August. Let's say August in Alabama. Little did we know it's about to go down. It was about to be the trainee, that's what they called us. We weren't firefighters yet until we got our we finished our probationary status, we wouldn't be considered firefighters. So we had to finish a full, complete year of employment and then pass our probationary tests and exams. And we had to be signed off by our officer when we got out into the stations. Anyway, so we were trainees. So they used to call us trainees. And they said it with the edge about them. Trainees. So we heard some of y'all stole some Whoppers. And we just standing there and say, oh, snap. I felt like we were POWs. No disrespect to the armed forces and those who've been captured. But if I had to relate it to anything, I felt like we were enemy combatants that were incarcerated as prisoners of war the way they was whooping us, and the way they would whoop us, and we had to stand there at attention. Or if we were outside, we had to be in running mode. So running mode is basically attention, but you're marching in time or like a little jog until they said stop or halt or whatever. Can't remember. But they would say running mode. When your feet hit the pavement, you better be in running mode. I was lieutenant driver. Uh, if guys, when y'all watch this, fill in the gaps in the comments, in the comment section. So anyway, back to the story. We're lined up and it's overcast, it's humid, and we're lined up and they said, all right, y'all put all your gear on, matter of fact. So we got all our gear on, which is our bunker gear, and we had black gear. It's anybody who's put on bunker gear or turnout gear, fire gear, you can't breathe. It's triple barrier, right? You have the outer shell, you have the moisture barrier, and then you have extra thermal barrier, if I'm not mistaken, of your PPE. And then you got your Nomex hood, and then you got your helmet on top of that. So you can't get no breeze. And they got us zipped up. We had our gloves on, we had our firefighter boots on. And they gave us a tongue lashing. We were doing push-ups, we were doing squats. But one thing about it, squats were easier in your bunker pants. So it was almost like the pants helped resist gravity. I don't know what it is. It was easier. So that was one of the only exercises that felt better with your gear on. But you're hot, dude. So we did that for about 10 minutes. Then they said, all right, line them up, hit the tower. So when they said hit the tower, we had to run up the tower, up and down, and then around the station. But I don't think we went around the station. They just had us loop around the back. So if I could design it, just think about when you went up six or five flights, let's call it six, and you would pass your teammate as they were coming down. So it's a long line of us. By the time we were back on the third flight or the fourth flight, depending where you were at, you would start passing your teammate. And then we'll go out about 20 or 30 feet and head right back up. So we were supposed to sound off. I know, I just want to paint the picture, so I hope you can see this. You see a whole bunch of cats, about 25 of us, 27 of us. And I was 16 for a minute. They used to make fun of me because we'd have to sound off. So we'd say 1, 2, fire department. And as we were going up the stairs. But I think by that time we were saying teamwork. They changed the chances we were going. So we were just hearing 25 souls, 27 souls yelling, teamwork, teamwork. And this is stories about suffering. I know it's long, but bear with me. We made it up the top. And by the time about a fifth or sixth trip, I wish I could paint it. The air is thick and humid. We're dripping. I have my fire helmet back like a cowboy because I'm trying to let the breeze get through to anything. At this point, I think it would be easier because I've been 13 years of wearing fire gear, right? But you're brand new to the fire service. I'm used to playing soccer. The hotter I get, the less clothes I have on. So this is just the opposite of everything I've ever encountered in my life. And I'm dying. Everybody's dying. I think by the fourth or fifth trip, they said sound off. We couldn't even sound off. When we got to the top, we had to say our number. And mine was 16 for the longest. So we get to the window, you scream, 16, sir. So you had to sound off. I think they kind of had us sounding off as well to know in case anybody was hiding in the tower or if anybody fell or whatever. They wanted to hear every number sound off so they know everybody was accounted for and everybody went to the top. So it turned into a trainee death march. That's why I said like POW. All you heard was boots. Cloop, 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 cloop. And you heard like guys gasping. And I was like, man, this is criminal. Somebody might die. I really thought there was a chance. And they've been known to send people to the hospital in the past. I was thinking, well, I can't be the first one to drop. That's all I was thinking. I can't be the first one to drop. So there we go. We're going. And I think by the 10th or 15th trip, they finally did something and they We were slowly zipping our jackets down. I think somebody finally called a safety stop, but they didn't say it. They looked at us and they saw that almost all of our officers were paramedics. Well, yeah, you had to be paramedics, except for one or two. You had to be a paramedic to promote to officer at that time in Montgomery. So they saw the state of us and it's like, yo, they fixing to kill one of these boys. Anyway, we came out of our gear and they did some more to us. We got water and then they just destroyed us for the rest of the day. I remember thinking like, I'm going to die because I'm not going to quit. They're going to have to kill me. That was my resolve. So it was suffering. And what was the benefit of that suffering, y'all? You learn to endure. We endured that for like 19 plus weeks, maybe been 22. And we had many more days that were terrible. But to me, that was my worst day at Academy. If any of the guys from 2012B end up in the comment section, let me know what your worst day was, if you guys remember that day, and if you guys can recall another day that was terrible. I remember, I don't know if it was that day, they were whooped us so bad physically, PT'd us so bad, that I had no tears to cry. I wanted to cry because I wanted to release, and I couldn't cry. That is crazy. So you learn to endure, and then finally at the end of it all, you overcome. We were so tough. They couldn't break us, and they were proud of us because they created machines that didn't think, they just acted. They would say something before they could finish the phrase. We were in push-up position or we were doing something because at that time we had been programmed. We were like robots. And we were proud of it too, but I was definitely PTSD. We definitely were a little bit broken, you know. Anyway, but the point was I wanted to tell you about the suffering and the enduring, the overcoming. We overcame, except for two of the cats. Well, one of the cats, he never made it out of the academy. He didn't finish up some of his testing. I think it was EMT. But the rest of us went out to the stations, to our respective stations, and we all passed our probationary and we all became firefighters for a time. And for the most part, most of us are still in the profession, even though a lot of us went separate ways. But after that, the point of this is, after that happened, there was multiple times later on in life where I encountered hardships and I was like, man, this is difficult. This is hard. How am I going to do this? And I would be able to pull back and say, remember those 20 some odd weeks of hell in Montgomery, Alabama? And you knew nobody there and you didn't have a support system. Matter of fact, I take that back. My crew, my trainees were my support system. And then within the trainees, I had a few that I could count on, and the Phelps family. But in reality, as far as like my family, I was by myself in a new town, a new city I knew nothing about. And of course I had God and I had my relationship with God, but I look back at that and I say, if I could survive that. Whatever this is cupcake compared to that. So that's the blessing of the suffering. If you use suffering for perspective and if you use it to build your resolve and to build your character, to build your ability to withstand hardship, you'll be better off, but you have to learn how to package it, how to frame it. So that's what I'm telling you. Give me a sec. Let me get a swig of this sparkling water. I promise it's sparkling water. It might look like it wasn't, but it is. I took the branding off of it because I need sponsorship. If you're going to you don't want it, you want advertisement, give me the sponsorship. Anyway, with that being said, that suffering, I look back at it and I'm so proud of it. And I think I'm gonna mount a picture of the Academy guys, and I have also another thing that we received from the Marines when I was in Afghanistan. The amount of missions we ran, successful missions to help the mission that we had at that base. I might put that picture up there. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put the picture right here of me receiving that certificate. And matter of fact, I'm gonna grab it right here. Just give me 1 second. It's right here. But the picture when I took with that officer who gave us the award, if I never bothered to suffer, if I never bothered to endure and overcome, I would have never made it to Afghanistan. I went from Djibouti to Afghanistan, and then about the third or fourth rotation of Marines out there was this particular set of gentlemen, and I was proud to be able to offer the fire protection and serve alongside them or work alongside them as they served, however you want to frame it. But let me grab this for you real quick, and I'll read it for the ones who are just listening. Okay. So here's what it says. It says the Department of the Navy, United States Marine Corps. See if you can see that. Kinda. Y'all can see the insignia at least. And it's from the Task Force Southwest Resolute Support Mission, Operation Freedom Sentinel, Hemlin, Nimrod's provinces. You can see that. And I'll read it real quick. From platoon commander, Task Force Southwest 19.1, to firefighter Joseph Rice, letter of appreciation. I wish to express my sincere appreciation for your superlative performance during the period of 01 the 1st of October 2018 from April 15, 2019, for your outstanding effort in support of Operation Freedom Sentinel as firefighter, Task Force Southwest Marine Corps Central Command. While assigned as a firefighter, your dedication and professionalism have established a high standard for others to follow. Your execution of countless hours throughout the security forces deployment in an adverse and ever-changing threat environment is a testament of your commitment to the mission. Your dedication to ensuring the safety of the members of your department, Marines, soldiers, sailors, and airmen on Camp Shorab is an example to be emulated by your peers and valued by your supervisors. Joseph, we appreciate the hard work you conducted day in and night because you responded to the calls, tones without hesitation. Your actions ensured the safe landing and departure of over 700 coalition aircraft, irrelevant to climate and environment. I extend to you my sincere appreciation for your commitment to the mission, your profession, and Task Force Southwest. Joseph, your success is well earned, and we are fortunate to have someone engaged in a purpose larger than yourself. And it says, I think it's Ricardo Demetrius by direction. But yeah, I remember I was so proud of that, and I'm gonna hope I have the picture right here. I'm gonna insert it here so you can see it. But yeah, your boy was so proud. Um, so suffering and then overcoming. And I could look back at that time. If I would have quit, there's a lot of cats quit. There were some cats that worked for UPS and FedEx, and they had decent jobs, and they were thinking about, they were drivers too, and they were making good money, doing their, you know, professions. And they were just thinking about it. So the thing I really liked about that process back then, and I'm not trying to act like, oh, you guys have it easy now who are entering the fire service, for those who are entering on newly entered into the fire service. Back then, it was people were on lists for years. You couldn't just walk on and get into a fire job. You had to be committed to that thing. But with that being said, that suffering and that enduring, that overcoming gave me that resilience and that muscle now that when I encounter stuff, I know I'm going to overcome or I am going to die trying. There's no quit. I'm not going to yield. It's not going to be bigger than me. I'm going to give it all I have. And I have to thank Montgomery Fire and Rescue for that. I've got to thank every department I've been at throughout my career has given me some level of resilience and resolve about me. So now that's just my character. And I'm going to do my best to impart that on everybody I encounter, who I mentor, who I coach, who I lead, right? And who I serve alongside with. So to the viewership and to the young men that I'm speaking to, and I already told you the age range and maybe even other people outside that range, but that's my core audience who I am talking directly to. Don't stop dreaming. Life has a good amount of suffering, I ain't gonna lie to you, and death and heartbreak and betrayal from loved ones, family members, significant others. It's going to happen, but you have to endure. You have to think bigger picture. You got to think about your dreams. You got to think about all the reasons why you chose to do this. And you have to know that eventually it will yield and you will overcome. And then you'll have that perspective. After that first one, after that first big trial you overcome, challenge you overcome, every other one will be a lot easier once you stay locked in. So dream. When suffering comes, endure. And after you endure for a while, you will overcome. Why? Because I did it and I'm not better than you. And if I could do it, you could do it too. About 37 minutes in, what am I going to say? Well, stay tuned for the book, The Warrior Monk. It's still a working title. I might put The Way of the Warrior Monk or whatever. And that book is basically going to give you all these different elements too. It's going to be short. It's not going to be too long-winded. I'm also going to do a workbook. I'm also going to do a module course as well because I this is so important. I wish I had the book for me when I was coming of age, and I wish I had all these tools, but God gave it to me and I'm going to give it to you so you could dominate. You know what I mean? I want you guys to be able to thrive. I want you guys to be able to jump over those hurdles because you are prepared for it and you've trained for it. Man, if you've made it this far, put overcome in the comment section, right? If you've made it this far, you made it to the end. It's 38 minutes. Thank you for rocking with your boy. And put overcome in there and you will overcome. You're overcomers. You feel me? I am too. And last but not least, pray for each other, help each other. Don't tear each other down. The world is going to tear you down, B. That's going to be part of the suffering. The world will tear you down, and there'll be people who you would least suspect or even expect to do it, right? And you gotta roll with it, man. Deal with the heartache, deal with that betrayal, cry it out if you have to. But you have to keep going. You cannot quit. There's so many people depending on you, including you. And I don't want you to be overwhelmed by it. I just want you to know the truth. Life will be challenging. There will be suffering. But you must endure. What are some tools to endure, Joe, before you go? Man, I can give you some tools. The word of God. You know what I'm saying? Get in your word. Look at those Bible heroes that endure. Look at Joseph. Excuse me. Look at Daniel, right? Look at David. They endured some stuff, right? And then also, it might get to the point where you might need mental health too. Mental health is real. I'm so thankful for my therapist. Shout out to Gerald. He's my therapist for specifically relationship counselor. But he does his thing and helps me with my different things as well if I need to do like a little one-on-one. And prior to that, I had mental health. I'm going to talk about that later on, but it's so important. Get counseling, get therapy. We all have childhood trauma. We all have, especially if you're a first responder, you got PTSD to some degree from something. Talk it out. Use healthy tools to get through this, right? So, how do you endure your suffering? I gave you a spiritual. Spend time with God. Read, read the Bible. Pray. Have healthy outlets, right? Whether that's exercise, sports, whatever, and then therapy too. Get your counseling on, right? And then in the comment sections, y'all put what y'all choose. What do you use? Healthy outlets to help you endure, right? Maybe it's you have a close personal network, or I say a small core, right? Everybody, you can't have a big team. I'm just saying, it's not realistic to have a big team that you could depend on. It should be a few good men, rather, or a few good women, whatever. But yeah, overcome. It is what it is. What did I say the definition was? And I'm wrapping up. I know I'm kind of rambling, but some of y'all might be still here. To get the better of, to surmount. And surmount was to prevail, to overcome, to get to the top of. And guess what? When you get to that top, enjoy it. Take it in. And then get back to it. Because there's more suffering coming. You have to endure again, and you'll overcome. And it's going to feel better and better, but let your faith increase with it, right? Lean on God, especially for for the believers. Lean on God throughout the whole time. And I promise you, he won't leave you. Because he ain't leave me, and I ain't better than you. And with that being said, what do I want y'all to do? I want y'all to stay tuned for my book, The Warrior Monk, which is going to give you these same skills. And stay tuned for all the other things that I have coming out. And if you like what you heard and you want to help your boy out, the offering plate is coming around. Right here, I'm going to put it right here. Venmo, your boy's taking Venmo donations, whatever you want to do to help support. And that's going to help pay for all the different software I use, all the different subscriptions I have to use to put this stuff out and maintain the podcast and the other social medias and the editing and all of that. There's some stuff that goes on behind the scenes. I wish I could just walk up and hit the mic and then it goes out there, but that's not the case. But anyway, with all that being said, help your boy out if you want to. If you want to be a sponsor, a full-fledged official sponsor, and get a little sponsorship or whatever, advertisement segment, hit me up in the DMs. I'll get with you. We'll work something out. You know what I mean? I think that's it. All right, for me to you know what it is. I want you to not just dominate, not the minute, not the second, not the hour. I want you to dominate the whole day. And not just the day. I want you to dominate every single day. I'm Joey from Joey Talks Live, and this is the Dominate the Day podcast. Peace. Holla at your boy.